Let me continue the method section. On Tuesday, we already learned how we can deal with the written statements. And we can also make a method for this problem, this greatest common divisor method. So this is the greatest common divisor method. You can see that method here is giving two parameters, n1 and n2. You can see in the eclipse, there is one outline. So this outline means you can know what kind of methods you have in your code. In this case, you have main method. And here you have another method, which is GCD. And you have two parameters, integer and integer. So the same this one. We have two parameters, integer and integer. And the method name is GCD. And if you can see here, int, integer, it means it requires a return value. And the return value will be integer. And if it is void, what does it mean by void? Void. It is just a method without return value. So if it is void, it is a method without return value. And you can specify with your data type. You can specify integer or double, okay, or character and etc. It means it is a method with return value. So as you can see here, it is the method with return value integer. If it is a void, then it is a method without return value. I would like to explain to you about overloading. What does it mean by overloading? So let's see this method. Test method overloading. If you see on this outline, okay, we have main method, and then we have max, and then we have another max, and then we have another max. So we have three methods, and all methods name are maximum. So is it possible? The method name is maximum. The method name is maximum. And the method name is maximum. And there is no errors. Is it possible? So we call this is overloading methods. You are using the same name. You're using the same name, max, but it has different parameters, or it has different return values. For example, the first method is returning integer, and it has two parameters, integer, integer. What about the second method? It is using the same name, max, but it returns double. Okay? And the parameters double and double. It means it is possible. Using the same method name, it is possible as long as you have different parameters, you have different return type. Now let's see this one. Here you can see 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 parameters, all of them are double, and we have a return type of double. You can see here, the first maximum is returning integer, and there are 2 parameters, integer, integer. The next method is maximum with 2 parameters, double, double, and it will return double value. The third maximum, it has 3 parameters, and it will return double value. Okay, so every maximum method has different parameters and return type. Now I would like to run. If I run max 3, 4, then it will go to the first method because the parameters are integers, and I know that this is integers. What about the second? It is the same maximum, but the parameters are double. So we go to the method which give the parameters double. What about the last one? I want to find the maximum of 3 possible values. And it goes to this method. So what is this method? We have the maximum of 3 values. So we want to get the maximum between number 1 and number 2. And the maximum of this number, we will check again with the number 3. And it will be the maximum value. So you can see that this is the example of overloading methods. Ambiguous invocation. So sometimes there might be 2 or more possible matches for an invocation of a method. So invocation means execution. Okay. Invocation means execution. But the compiler, Java compiler, cannot determine the most specific match. This is referred to as ambiguous invocation. And this ambiguous invocation is a compilation error. This is the meaning by the ambiguous overloading. I want to get the maximum of 1, 2. If you see this one, double, so it will return a double value. And then this is the method max, and I have integer num1 and double num2. I also have another method named maximum, and it will return double. But the first parameter is double, the second parameter is integer. So is it the same or is it different? Same or different? the two methods, is it the same or is it different? It is different. Why it is different? Because here the first parameter is integer. The second parameter is double. How about this? The first parameter is double. The second parameter is integer. So they are different. Because they are different, okay, we can make this overloading. However, but when we want to input 1 and 2, which method will be executed? This one or this one? 1, the value of 1, it can be integer, but it can be also double, because you can put 1.0 as double. How about this one? 2, it can be 2.0, it can be also integer. Then, which method will be executed? Java will give this code as errors. Okay. So please do not make like this code. Okay, so you already learned about the method. We already know what the parameters and what is formal parameter and what is actual parameter. We call the formal parameter is the parameter in the method. And we call actual parameter is the value that you put when you call the method. Okay, so we have the, we call this is the formal parameters, and we call this is the actual parameters. So when you call the method, we put the values, and the values is the actual parameters. A method with a written value should declare the method with written value type. True or false? So this means that a method with written value, so if I define like public static integer max, integer num1, integer num2, then I need to have a written value type. So if I have the written like this one, then I need to declare the written value. Is it true or false? Oh, sorry, I cannot edit that. So if I have static integer max, integer num1, integer num2. So I have a written value, written sum, written, let's say num1. Written num, and I have this one integer num. So if num1 greater than num2, then num equals to num1. Else num equals to num2. A method with return value, it means I have this a method with return value should declare the method with return value type. Should declare the method with return value type. True or false? Yeah, if you have the return statement, you should declare this one. Okay? The answer is true. Okay. What is the difference between overloading methods and ambiguous invocation? In the overloading method, you can have the same method name, but it has different parameter and different return value. For the ambiguous, it is also the same with overloading. We call this is the overloading methods, but the compiler failed to match the input with the parameter. So the ambiguous invocation, the ambiguous method or ambiguous invocation means the compiler cannot find the correct method with the respective parameters. So I have this definition. This is the ambiguous invocation. And the overloading methods we can see from this example. Okay. In this section, I would like to explain about local variables. What is local variable? A local variable is a variable defined inside a method. So if you have a method, you can define your variable. And the scope is the part of the program where the variable can be referenced. The scope of a local variable starts from its declaration and continues to the end of the block that contains the variable. A local variable must be declared before it can be used. So let's see. You can declare a local variable with the same name. So if you have the same name of the variables, you can do that. You can use multiple times in different non-nesting blocks in a method. But you cannot declare a local variable twice in nested blocks. Okay, so what does it mean? Let's see this example. What does it mean by nested blocks? Nested blocks. The nested blocks means this is the opening and this is the ending. So we call this is one nest, or this is one nested block. And we can have another nested block from here to here. This is another nested block. Okay. Now, I would like to declare a variable, and the first variable here is I. When I declare I here, it means the I can be read in this nested block. So you can use in between this for until this block. Now I have another variable, integer j. Once you define this one, then you can use this variable starting from this definition until ending of this block. So you cannot use j here because it is outside the block. That's what we call as the local variables. So I give this definition. A variable declared in the initial action part of for loop header has its scope in the entire loop. But a variable declared inside a for loop body has its scope limited the body from its declaration to the end of the block that contains the variable. Okay, so that's the meaning by this figure. So this is another kind of examples. I define X. Okay, so this is public static void method 1. I define X because I define X here. So X can be run in this block. So you can use X plus equal I. And now I define Y. So I can use Y from this section until the end of the block. So I can use Y here. But let's see. It is wrong to declare I in two nesting blocks. Here you define I as integer. After you define this I, it should work from this block until the end of the block. But here you define again integer I. Then it is double. You already defined here, but you define another. Then this is wrong. Once you define your variable, you cannot define the same variable. Now, maybe you will have question. Or let me give you a question. What about this? I have integer I. And I have also integer I here. Why it is okay? Because when we define this for loop, the nested block will be ended here. Because it is ended here, so when I have another for loop, and if I define another integer I, then it is okay. So you need to find what is the scope. You need to find where is the block. Let's see, yeah, this one is the one that I showed you before. If you define X here, you can use X in any place under this block. If you have Y here, you can use any place about Y as long as it is still inside the block. For I, here, I is declared and I is declared again. It is okay because the for loop is only in this block and the for loop was only in this block. In this case, we will have errors. Where is the errors? Which one is the error? another integer x, integer I, integer x, this one. Okay. Okay, you're correct. Thank you. This is the error because we already have the integer x here. And the scope of this local variable will be here until here. So once you define another integer x, it will be incorrect, not correct. Okay. Yeah, this is the local variable. Okay. What is a local variable? So a local variable, we can say it is the variable inside a method. And you can declare a local variable with the same name multiple times in different non-nesting blocks in a method. True or false? You can declare a local variable with the same name multiple times in different non-nesting block. Non-nesting block, then it means like this one. This is one nesting block. This is another nesting block. So if it is in different nesting block, you can define the variable, you can define the same name multiple times. True or false? It is true. Okay. Yep, you already learned about methods. We learned about methods without return values. We learned methods with return values, and we learned scope of local variables. Any questions? Then I will continue to the next. I'm going to explain about array. In this section, I give you another file, which is section 06. Okay. So let me open this one with up-tuple. And after I open this, you can see there are some files, there are some Java files. Okay. You can copy those files and put into your Eclipse. Just the same as the previous section, let's make a new package. Let's make a new package. And I created a section 06. After I created the section 06, you can paste all those files. You can do paste on those. You can paste those files into the section 06. So you will see the Java files that you have extracted from the zip file, and you can see it on the Eclipse. Okay. Now let's see what we can understand from this section. In this section, I'm going to explain about arrays. There are three things in this PowerPoint. First is about array, and the other is about arrays for calculation, and next is array for character or text processing. Let's see about arrays or numerical data. There is one problem. Read 100 numbers. You need to read 100 numbers and compute their average. You know, average. Okay. How we can do the average calculation? If we have, for example, N1 plus N2 plus N3, and let's say we have 100 numbers, then we will get until the number 100 divided by 100, because we have 100 numbers. So how we can compute this one, and how we can make the Java output, and find out how many numbers are above the average. So for example, I know that the average here is 3,5. So find the numbers that is greater than, this one. Find out how many numbers are above the average. So find the numbers which is greater than 3.5. I give you one code here, analyze numbers. We have the scanner, okay, but you will see it is a unique class name. Usually I just use scanner, but now it shows java.util.scanner. If you are using this way, you will not see any import function. Okay, there is no import here. It means in your Java code, it directly calls the scanner. Basically, it is the same. If you delete this part, there will be errors, and then you can fix this error by doing the import, and you will have the java.util.scanner. So it's the same. You don't need this one. You will see this one. It works the same. And now I would like to know how many items that I want to input to the computer. The first input will be how many numbers, okay, or how many items. And it will be saved somehow in, I will explain this one. And then I will do some kind of summation. I will put a variable sum equals to 0. I will do the loop. So I would like to get the numbers from users. And then I will do the average. And I would like to check how many numbers are above the average. Let me just try to run this. Let me enter 6 numbers. Okay. Enter numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The average will be 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 divided by 6. And the average is about 3.5. Now, how many numbers above the average? Above 3.5, then we have 4, 5, and 6. Then there are 3 numbers that are above the average. So this is the code. how we can understand this code. We call this is array. So array is a data structure that represent a collection of the same types of data. We can represent the array with the square bracket. So you can see here, double, usually when you have one data type, let's say double, you can just put the variable name, let's say sum. Double sum equals to 0, for example. That's the easy way to define a variable. But now you can see there is a square bracket. The square bracket means the array. I would like to have many numbers, and the numbers will be in a double type. How many numbers that I want to insert? Here I will define 10 numbers. So the way to define this one is something like double. It will be in the form of array, and then you can define your variable name. For example, my number. And then you will define it as a new type of double. And if I want to define 10 numbers, then you will say 10. How about if I want to prepare 20 numbers? So you can have double. Let's say I have my list and I have new double. And if I want to prepare 20, you can say 20 here. So this is how we define the array. Using this definition, I would like to prepare 10 place, and let's check. In the first my list, it is index 0. I have the value 5.6. In the index 1, I have 4.5. In the index 2, I have 3.3. In the index 3, I have 13.2. So I will have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is the same with the definition here. I prepare 10 places. So if you make this as 20, then you will prepare 20 places. If you put this one as 25, then you will prepare 25 places. Okay, it depends about the numbers that you put in the square bracket. And also we will have the index. Here is index 0, here is index 1, here is index 2, here is index 3, and so on. If we have 10, then it will be from 0 until 9. So I will give you more introduction about this one. Declare. When we have an array, we need to declare the array variables. What does it mean by declare? So I need to make an array. So this is the variable name, my list. And all numbers in my list will be double. Because I have this square bracket, it is array. In some literatures, they put this square bracket after the variable name. This style is allowed, but not preferred. It means just try to use this style. And when we want to create array, we need to define how many items that we want to prepare. If you prepare mylist as your array name, then mylist index 0, it will be the first element in the array. And mylist index 9, it will be the last element in the array. So if you want to declare the array in one line, the one that I showed you before, I have double, which is the data type, and then I put the square bracket, I put the name of the variable, and I declare new. And it is a double with 10 places or 10 storage. You can use this one, but as I mentioned to you, it is not preferred. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to stop. I will stop.